Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today is going to be a fun episode with my friend Duwane Adams of Duwane Adams Hunting. And Duwane has a heck of a story to tell. Duwane, the last time I talked to you, we were talking about December Coues deer, and you were talking about rut, and then you had talked that you had the Raffle hunter, and we're excited about that hunt. And I'm down in Mexico, and I'm getting pictures of this giant deer that you guys killed. How you doing, first of all, before we get into it?
I'm doing very good, thank God, Jay. Very, really good, thank God.
That's awesome. So why don't we just start from the beginning, and you can kind of tell a little bit about the story of how this hunt came to fruition, and then just walk us through it.
Yeah, the gentleman drew the tag in the lottery. He's the one that bought some tickets and ended up with the governor tag, and he spent $100, and he's just a regular working man and a very nice man, a firefighter from Northern California. And a sad thing, his house halfway burnt down in that Paradise Fire up in California, so he was concerned with all of that mess, which, you know how that is. That would turn out to burn 10,000 houses down up there. But a really nice man, and he just wanted to kill a really nice deer. He had never seen a Coues deer, and I told him if we go in January, we'll start around the 10th, and we'll see what happens. And we went out the first day, and we got snow all over us, Jay. It was a mess, and so we backed out of there, and Shane Yount and Cole Yount, Shane's guided for me for a long time, and his dad, before his dad passed away, Dana guided for me for 22 years, and that's how I met the boys. But Colt found this buck. He found it this summer on a drinker, and he put a trail camera on there and found this ungodly deer. And then him and his brother, Colt had the tag, and they went and hunted the deer for a few days. They actually seen the deer once during that season, but they couldn't get on it. They had his little boys with them, Jay, and you know how that is. They couldn't keep up. The deer got away and got off out in the flats, and I'd never been there, Jay. I'd never been to the place, so I didn't know how to go anything about it. But Colt gave us the green light with this tag to go in there. So we went on in there and got set up and parked, and he told us exactly where to park and where to hike up to, and then that was the last place that he'd seen the buck. And so we climbed up there, and as I got up on top of the hill, I run into a kid that used to guide for me. His name was Steve Nadaha, and he guided for me for about 4 years, and he's a very nice young man, and he's a quality hunter. And I walked up to him, and he said, we're after that big buck, Duwane. I said, who you with, Steve? He said, I'm with A3. He said, Ben Bershue's over on the other mountain over there, which I couldn't see him. It was quite a ways away where Ben was. And I told him, I said, well, we got a tag too. And I said, we're hunting right here. And I told him that Colt had found this deer in early September, and then he told me that I just lost a deer, and I'm trying to find it. And I said, good luck. And so he started glassing for the deer, and then we started glassing for the deer, and we glassed about 3 hours, I think, Jay. We killed the deer at 11, if I'm correct. But about pretty close to 11 is when we killed the deer. But we started glassing, and Shane and I looked up on top of the mountain and behind the mountain, and then finally we started looking back towards the drinker and back out on the flats is what we started doing. And Shane found the deer out on the flats out there, way out in the east in those flats. And I got the hunter on him, and he killed the deer. It was about 375 yards, and we walked down there, and it was ungodly deer. But to back up a little bit, A3 had hired Ben Bershue to find that deer, and I'll tell you, Jay, the boy did an unbelievable job, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been on a lot of goose chases like that in my lifetime, people tell you about a big deer, and they'll tell you where it's at, and I've been in there, and I'm going to say about 80% of the time I don't find that deer. But Ben found this deer about 3 days before we got there, which I didn't know until Ben come up and told me, and he had some great footage on his Instagram that he had posted. But by all rights, Ben and Steve and A3 and Chaz, they should have killed this deer. But what happened, Chaz's brother had the tag, and his daughter had major nose surgery in the sinuses, and she was in the hospital for 3 days. So he sat there with his daughter, which was unbelievable when I heard the whole story, him telling me over the deer that he said it just wasn't meant to be. He said, because I should have killed this deer a few days ago, and but we didn't. You guys came in and you killed the deer. So, you know, you got to give those guys a lot of credit. Chaz, Ben, and his brother, because it could have went either way. I told Shane, I said, when they were glassing that direction, Steve lost that deer over there. I told Colt and I said, Shane, let's don't look that way, because I didn't want to be in a pissing contest with find a deer. They found a deer, so we started looking the opposite direction. So because I presumed any minute that Steve was going to find that deer again, because I guess he had those other guys, Ben and his buddies, looking over there. Like I said, we could never see those guys. I mean, they were a half a mile or farther away from us, kind of out on a long ridge. So I don't know where they were. Like I said, we couldn't see them. But I want to tell that Ben did a great job in finding that deer, because I've been on those goose chases, and they can tell you exactly where it is, and don't find it. Ben come up there and congratulated us, along with A3, and he could have killed that deer. And I've thought about this in great detail since then. He had that deer at 60 yards with a bow, and he let it go because these guys are going to come in the next day. And I'll tell you, Jay, that's unbelievable that he did that, and so it tells you a lot of fortitude and a lot of how that young man's a quality young man, and what he did in that whole deal. The same with A3. That was his brother that had the tag, but the deer just somehow lost. They lost a deer over there where they were looking, and it filtered out in the flats. Jay, it filtered way out in the flats, out in the east where we were glassing. You know, like I said, over a half a mile away. And we happened to find it, and thank God we killed it. And Ben scored it right there. And when we did it, he came up with 149 and 5/8, and we since have scored it 2 or 3. We've got 150. We got 103 quarters. I mean, it's all in that zone, so it's way over 149 inches. So
unreal.
It's unbelievable, you know, and it could be a hybrid. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm a guide. I'm not a biologist. I don't know. All I do know is it has a white tail, and when we seen it, I mean, I never even dreamed that it was anything but a gigantic white tail, and that's how we killed it.
When you guys saw it, or when you saw it for the first time, when you guys were trying to get on it to shoot it, was it just crazy looking to your eye? I mean, wide, and just what were you thinking?
Well, that's exactly right. It had its butt to us, and Shane had seen it stand there feeding broadside, and then he told me about it, and I got on it, and at that time it kind of turned and had its head down feeding. And it was ungodly. I mean, I've killed over 40 Boone and Crockett bucks with clients. I ain't never seen nothing like this in my life. And the horns were outside its butt substantially as it was feeding there, and then it kind of walked a little bit to the right. And when it raised its head up, you know, you could just see that it was most people, including myself, will never see a deer like that again. And it was that simple. So Tall did a great job. We got him on the rifle, and he had he's used one of my rifles, one of my custom rifles that Kyle Craig made, that were deadly accurate, thank God, and we killed it, and it worked out pretty good. So
Duwane, that was on the Arizona Super Big Game Raffle tag.
He bought $100, if I'm correct, if I remember right, $100 worth of tickets, and he won that. I've actually helped 3 people on that same tag in my lifetime with the draw, and he was actually the 3rd guy that I'd helped.
Okay, and just to tie in a couple of part of the story here, from what hunter that had the actual auction tag, the tag that they purchased. Is that correct? So it wasn't an archery hunter that was hunting them. It was someone that had bought the auction permit.
Yeah, that's correct. A3's brother, Chaz's brother, bought the tag.
Oh, okay. So it must have been Shane Roten.
Yeah.
If it's Chad Roten from A3, it must have been Shane Roten that bought the governor's tag. And so basically you guys were both hunting for the buck. You guys ended up looking out into the flats. You found the deer and you killed the deer, and then they came up and were congratulatory. And so you're saying that, they came up and were gentlemen and what have you about the deal.
Well, they were actually unbelievably courteous, especially those 2 guys, Shane and his brother, both of them, because like he said, and he said this, it just wasn't meant to be. He said, because Ben had found the deer 3 days before that and watched it every day for 3 days, and then and he said his daughter had to have an operation, a sinus operation. It was a major operation, he said, so she was in the hospital. And you got to give that guy a lot of credit when you really think about the whole thing. These guys are calling him, telling him that they got a 150 Coues deer, and my Lord,
that's family's more important. Yeah,
family's more important, and he exercised that there, and so God bless him. And I hope he kills a gigantic buck, because he was a quality man, and so was all the A3 people as well. So I know that all of us outfitters get bad names for one reason or another, but in this case, these guys were quality people on every aspect, and I didn't want any ill feelings in any way, because it really wasn't that way. Because when I seen Steve up there, I walked right up to Steve, because he had guided for me for 4 years, and when he told me he found the big buck was over there, I told Shane, let's don't glass over there. We're not going to glass that way. Those boys are glassing over there, and if they kill it, God bless them. We'd have walked right off that mountain and walked over there and shook their hands and said congratulations, and what an ungodly buck. We knew it was an unbelievable buck because of the pictures that Colt had, which he had several pictures of that buck in the summertime. And but the truth, I guessed the deer, and I was way off. I guessed the deer at about 135, maybe a little better. But when I seen that thing, I knew I was way off. When you see a trail cam picture, that's a different story. When you glass those binoculars and see how long those points are and how wide and the whole, then I knew I was way off. So
yeah, unbelievable deer. The word hybrid comes up and people start talking about a hybrid. I would ask you, regardless of hybrid or not, like, it had a full white tail and it had a full white face, did it not?
That's exactly right, and it did, and it has a white tail, and it had the face, and it has the whole thing, So as far as you're putting it as a Boone and Crockett, I don't know how that goes. I don't know if they test it or not. That's way out of my league. I don't have a clue. So I'm sure they might do that, and if they do, so that's okay. It's still a great deer for anybody, and that killed it.
For sure. Well, that's an awesome story. The last time we talked, you were also going to be doing some December Coues deer hunts, if I remember correctly. And how did the season end up shaking out for you as far as rut and behavior and what you saw out there, and then carrying that forward on this raffle hunt? What were the deer doing as far as rutting and the time frame? Like when did you really notice them rutting hard, and what was going on with them?
Well, they weren't rutting in December, not even close. We did. Well, I didn't see any. You might see a spike or a 2-point acting silly, but you darn sure didn't see any deer that was real. Even in the bucks in the 90s and up, we never seen anything. We ended up killing a really nice buck, real close to 100 inches. We killed that deer, but we didn't see anything that was rutting.
Duwane, I want to take a second here because here on February 12th, coming up here in about 2 weeks, and I know you spend a lot of time in Unit 1, so I want to talk to you a little bit about Unit 1 and then anything else that you want to talk about. But before we do that, I want to thank the sponsors of this podcast. And I want to remind the listeners, GoHunt.com is the title sponsor of this podcast. And the Optics Authority, the glassing guru, Cody Nelson, my friend of 20-plus years, I've had him lately on the podcast a bunch. And he's the optics manager. If you need any optics needs at all, whether it be rifle scopes, spotting scopes, binoculars, tripods, etc., you can reach out to him at 702-847-8747. That's extension 2. Or you can email him at optics@gohunt.com. I also want to remind you guys, when you're filling out your applications and looking at breaking down the Arizona elk and antelope draw, as well as all the other states that are going to follow up here behind Arizona, GoHunt.com Insider. If you go to GoHunt.com/J Scott, you can get a $50 GoHunt Gear Shop gift card just by signing up for the Insider. It's the best Western hunting resource tool out there to find draw odds, the most accurate draw odds. And they are the title sponsor of this podcast. I want to thank them for that. I also want to thank Kuiu.com. That's KUIU.com. Kuiu Ultralight Hunting. That's the gear that I wear. CanyonCoolers.com. If you use the JScott19 promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. Phonescope.com. That's the digiscoping adapter that I use to get all of the great video footage. If you use the JScott19 promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount on all orders. And then onxmaps.com. Use the JScott19 code to get 20% off OnX Maps. What a resource that is. I used it down in Mexico with the aerial feature, and really worked well on those ranches. Duwane, you've spent 30-plus years up in Unit 1 chasing elk. Looks like we're getting pretty good moisture. The people that are interested in putting in for Unit 1, talk a little bit about how you foresee the elk hunts up in Unit 1 coming, and any of your thoughts on that.
Well, thank God we got the moisture. I think that's going to be the big difference. Last year we never got anything up there, and the horns were down between 25 and probably 40 points, Jay. I think that was really common, and Unit 1 probably has more water, Jay, than all the other units combined, because there's lakes and streams everywhere. So they've got about 4 or 5 feet of snow up there, I understand now, thank God. So I think it's going to be a great year.
And how much holdover do you think, with these bulls that were down 25, 30, 40 inches, potentially with good moisture, do you feel like there's a real chance that there can be some really good bulls that, have another a year of age on them, and, with good antler growth, with good spring moisture, it just could be a bang-up year?
I think so, Jay, because, my uncle has a place in Pine Top, and he left it October the 15th, and he had 3 inches of snow on his place, and he's called his neighbor all the time, and there's 12 inches there now. So if there's 12 inches in Pine Top, my Lord, Big Lake and all of that zone is literally gonna have lots and lots of snow. So those springs that come back, and all the stuff that those lush meadows, and so the food's going to be fabulous. And I think with all animals, if they got good food, they explode and come back very fast.
Yeah. How many years have you been hunting in Unit 1?
This year will be 40.
So, in your opinion, like the bugling last year on a drought year, was it a lot worse than on normal years when you have pretty decent moisture?
Yeah, it wasn't as good as it usually is. That's correct. It wasn't as good in by all means. We always call the 20th a magic day of September. Usually by 20th, the rut is going to be in full swing, and that could be the 18th, and that might be the 22nd. But that zone right there has always been what we call, this thing is going to get on. And it didn't really get on till like the 22nd, 23rd. It was later this year to where there was those just screaming their guts out, and the race was on. And this, Jay, because you guys, a lot of guys can't run and gun because they have knee problems, they got back problems. They're a lot of hunters. They can't do a lot of things that we do, and so you like to set them on a wallow in it, Jay. Last year, we really struggled with that part because I had a guy that had a replacement knee, and he had a hard time getting around in camp, much less anywhere else. And 2 or 3 of the places that I had hunted over the years, they were plumb dry, Jay. There wasn't an ounce of water. We finally found a place about midway through the hunt in the evening, and the guy killed an elk off of it. But boy, I'm telling you, it was something till then.
Well, I'm hoping that the snow continues and we have a good February and a good March, and then have some good early monsoons. Hopefully, maybe late June, right there at the 1st of July, we get good monsoon rains, and we have a bang up elk year. That's what I'm hoping for. Duwane, I know you're busy. I really appreciate hearing the story about the raffle tag buck. It's just a giant. I can't wait to hopefully see the rack in person one of these days. And I'm glad your hunter was able to get a beautiful buck for sure. Want to give you a chance if you have any final or concluding thoughts, and also how people can get a hold of you to talk more either about Coues deer. Obviously, they've probably heard the Kaibab podcast. They want to talk about the Kaibab and or the Unit 1 elk hunt.
Well, the best way to get in touch with me is just Duwane Adams, and my phone number is 520-385-4995. And I also have a Coues deer book that I sell, and I have a Kaibab book. And if you're looking for a great hunt in Unit 1, we'd love to have you. I guide them, Jay, for 14 days for the same price. And I love to hunt just as much as taking them. So we love chasing all kinds of animals, and we love chasing big bulls too.
That's awesome, buddy. Well, thanks for coming on. God bless, and I can't wait to see that buck in person. And I'm glad that several sportsmen were after him, and I'm glad it came to a good ending, and it was good feelings all the way around. So that's a good thing. That's a win for everybody.
God bless you, Jay, and it's always good talking to you.
All right, buddy. Take care. Okay?
Bye-bye, Jay.